You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for tuning in this weekend. I'm looking forward to bringing you another 4 questions. And so what I want to say is, just like yesterday, we're going to go through 4 questions minimum for each Cabral house call. And the reason is this: we're getting more and more questions coming in each and every week. I'm a little backlogged, so believe me, if you did enter in a question, I will absolutely get it to you. These are from about 2 weeks ago, and we're just going to get right through the questions. I'm going to make sure that each and every person that submits one does get their question answered. All right, so let's get right into today's questions. Again, really excited to have you tuning in today, and these questions are absolutely worth checking out. They apply to all of us at one point or another. All right, first question is from Anonymous. She writes, "Hi, Stephen. How do you go about getting rid of mold-based issues, and what if you constantly live in a mold environment? P.S. Catching up on all the great podcasts. Notice you changed the intro music. Preferred the old one, but as always, great podcasts." All right, Anonymous, thank you for the question. Thank you for your feedback. I'm sorry that you do not love our new intro music for our I'm assuming, the Monday through Friday, because the weekend ones are obviously a little different. I figured 1 year of the same music, it was time to change it up. I like the new music. A few other people like the new music. Some people don't. Fortunately, it's only about 10 seconds of an intro, but I obviously always appreciate the feedback. So, please keep it coming. Let's get into your mold question. So mold is a big issue. It's a huge issue here in New England as well. I mean, in the fall time especially, well, spring as well, we're going to get mold not only from homes, but we're going to get mold from the environment too. Okay, so essentially, getting rid of mold is a 2-part solution. And again, I work with mold-based issues all the time. And you probably know by now that I've suffered from pretty much all these issues around allergies and mold and all sorts of different issues to do with gut permeability as well. But I used to have massive reactions. So this is a long time ago now, but I would get allergy shots. And again, long time ago. And when they would test me for mold, the reaction, not immediate, but 24 hours later, my entire arm would blow up. And my mold allergies were just off the charts. So here's the thing. We have to do this. If possible, you want to remove yourself from any environment that has mold. If it's outside, obviously it's a different story. But if your basement has mold in it, if your home has mold in it, it has to be remediated. You have to have a company come in and you have to get rid of that mold. It is toxic, it is lethal, and it has to be removed from your home. Okay? If it's at work or if it's in your home, I highly recommend a HEPA filter that's going to filter out mold spores in the air. Now, keep in mind, you can't see mold spores in the air. You can't. That's the unfortunate thing. You can get mold petri dishes that you can actually leave in different rooms of your house for about 24 to 48 hours, then cap them, and then just put it in a dark place and see after 2 to 3 weeks if the mold spores actually grow. Then you know mold is actually in the air. So you can check that out as well. I'm going to give recommendations on HEPA filters, mold collection kits, all that in the future. I'm going to do a whole show on mold because it obviously needs more than a 3 or 4 minute answer, but you need to get your answer now. So I want to give you places to start. Again, bring the HEPA filter to work, or your employee friends will absolutely appreciate that, or use it at home, and or both. The second thing is, if your environment, if the outside doesn't contain high amounts of mold, then you want to keep your windows open. Even in the winter, keep them open a crack so you can let fresh air come in, so you don't live in this toxic, stale, toxic home-based environment. Again, my book coming out this spring is going to go into this in depth, because these are things that no one's talking about, but it is absolutely the reason why we are so sick, we can't get well. And even for those of us, who might be well, we're not living optimally because our bodies are having to deal with this onslaught of toxins in the environment, and mold is absolutely one of those. Okay, the other thing that works tremendously well is garlic-based capsules. Okay, there's a few brands. Kyola garlic being one of them, that provides great garlic capsules. They're odorless, which means you can take them a couple at dinner and you can work on mold detoxification. The other thing is, of course, is using N-acetylcysteine, glutathione, using sulfur-based amino acids, making sure that you get enough vitamin B, vitamin C. These are all important things, for your body as well. I also like using certain enzymes. So just keep in mind, like the Dr. Cabral Detox includes all of these, right? Because you want to make life simple. And so that's what I did. I essentially cut out the middleman, cut out all these different supplement bottles that you would have to open, and it's a 3-bottle package, basically. If you're suffering from mold-based issues right now, I can't recommend enough the 21-day Dr. Cabral Detox, along with additional Kyolic garlic capsules. And then if you'd like, try to use an infrared sauna. Try to exercise as well, even just rebounding, because you want to huff off all of that mold-based air that's in your lungs as well and get some of that right out of your body. So that is a great place to start. And I know if you do that, you'll be well on your way to feeling much healthier. Okay, Marie is up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. I love your podcast, and I'm so grateful for the way you share your knowledge so freely, as well as your heart to people. I was wondering if you have read the new book, Eat Wheat, a scientific and clinically proven approach to safely bringing wheat and dairy back into your diet, by John Douillard. As someone who has been off of wheat and dairy for years now and go to great measures to keep my 3 children and husband away from it as well, I was skeptical of the title. But after reading the summary and the many rave reviews on Amazon, I feel inclined to read it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you, Marie. Okay, so I read everything. I really do. And that's because I love books. Like, I don't do it because I say, hey, look at me reading these books. It's I honestly love reading about all things health, wellness, and psychology. And I don't see that ever stopping. It hasn't stopped now for 20 years. Part of it is because I like to just be a sponge, and I love to be the perpetual student, right? I no longer see any value in me going back for another degree. I don't see it because I read the amount of textbooks and books in 1 year that you would read in another 3 or 4 year degree. And again, I'm not putting down school and degrees at all. I'm not. But how I see myself right now is very focused on knowing what I need to do to keep my family healthy, to keep me healthy, and to keep everyone I work with, and of course, everyone in our community listening to this podcast, healthy as well. So I just try to stay laser focused. But Dr. John Douillard is a very brilliant chiropractor, as well as Ayurvedic medicine practitioner. Really smart guy, wrote a book, multiple books, right? Let's just talk about this one right now. So enjoy his teaching, enjoy who he is as a person. I cannot agree with the majority of people eating wheat and dairy, and here's why. I lab test people. I test against gluten sensitivity. I test against dairy sensitivity. So here's the thing. You can run a food sensitivity for yourself. Eat some wheat and eat dairy for 2 days. Take your food sensitivity test. You can just go to stephencabral.com/store. It's the most amazing food sensitivity test you can do. You do it right at home for yourself. You can do it for your children. We have people buy entire kits, for their whole family. And then you can get a coaching call besides your lab results with my holistic health practitioner who works in my practice. So it's amazing. I mean, you can't get it anywhere else. You can get that lab test, of course, at other places. I'm not saying that. But this information and how I assimilate that and just give it to people. But here's the thing. Dairy is the number 1 IgG food sensitivity. I'm not talking about Ig. IgE means that you eat wheat or dairy and you immediately get cramping or bloating or hives or headaches or any of that. That can happen. That can happen from histamine-based issues. That can happen from IgE-based responses. Many different responses, right? But I'm talking about a delayed latent reaction. These are the things that sit in the background that cause mucus, that cause allergies, that cause autoimmune-based issues, that cause Hashimoto's thyroiditis, that cause rheumatoid arthritis, that cause MS, that cause chronic fatigue, that cause any of these immune-based dysfunctions which push the body either towards a Th1 immune balance, Th17, Th2 immune imbalance. So, again, I'm not taking anything away from Dr. Douillard. I'm not. Great guy, smart guy, been in practice a long time, appreciate his knowledge, and he is a man with a very deep heart. So, I appreciate you saying that about me as well, but, really, he's the same exact way. I just don't agree with this principle. It is saying, for people to eat wheat because people want to hear that they can eat wheat again. People want to hear that they can eat dairy again. And should it be eliminated from everyone's diet? I'm not saying that. But drinking cow's milk? Absolutely not. That's not even in the realm of possibilities. First of all, the milk that we're getting now is also a different type of milk that you would get in India, that you would get in Australia. The actual cow is different. I'm not going to get into that today. But second, it's not even properly assimilated by humans because we're not capable of really breaking it down very well. Now, if you want to make the argument for some soft goat cheese or some goat's milk kefir, you can make that argument with me. And if you're not sensitive to it, I will say absolutely. But guess what? Food test yourself for goat's milk. Like, it's very simple, very straightforward. We have the benefit of using functional medicine now, so we don't have to guess. So the other thing with wheat, are we talking about an ancient grain? Like, are we talking about durum? Are we talking about spelt? Are we talking about actual wheat berries? What are we talking about? Or are we talking about the processed wheat that we would get with like a loaf of bread? Are we talking about like ancient rye? That's a totally different story as well. First, make sure you're tested for gluten and gliadin. Are you sensitive on that food test? Yes or no? If you're not, well, then adding wheat back in, not daily, right? You don't eat chicken every day. You shouldn't eat eggs every day. You shouldn't eat wheat every day. But if you had it once a week or twice a week, is that an issue? No. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about also quantity and quality over just a blatant statement like eat wheat or eat dairy. Because you know what, for the most part, it's unnecessary to eat wheat and it's unnecessary to eat dairy to be a healthy human being because you should be focusing on your fruit and vegetables and then some good quality sources of protein, whether it's fish or if you're paleo and you eat some healthier versions of grass-fed or pastured meats, or if you're vegan and you're sticking more towards lentils and chickpeas and black beans and, you know, some sprouted organic tofu every once in a while, those types of things, fine, right? So wheat and dairy, like, they're not even in the realm of saying like we need to eat these foods in our diet. What I'm saying is these are the foods that we love to eat. So it's a very popular book because you're giving people, like, let them eat cake, right? You're giving people what they want to hear. And again, I'm not saying anything negative at all against Dr. Juilliard because it's a good book and he's a brilliant man. So there's no doubt about that at all. What I'm saying is for the average human, eating wheat, eating dairy before you actually like remove the candida, remove the yeast, remove the fungal overgrowth, remove the bacterial overgrowth, seal up the gut wall. And then we can have the discussion about eating some wheat or some goat's cheese or sheep's cheese. Like, that's the discussion after you get your gut back and you get yourself healthy. Do I eat some goat cheese? Yes. Do I eat some wheat? Yes. Is it once a week at most? Yes, it is once a week because I enjoy those foods. I'm now a healthy human being. Years ago, I wasn't, so I absolutely eliminated those from my diet. I do my food testing, and again, I know what my body can handle and what it can't. But keep in mind, just because you eat those things and feel fine, that doesn't mean there's a low level of inflammation not being created, because keep in mind, unless it's raw milk, raw cheese, it's going to be an acidic-based food. It's going to be inflammatory. Same with wheat as well. Wheat by nature is an inflammatory food. So I just went off there a little bit, probably too much of a tangent, but what I'm trying to say is it's a good book. Could some people eat some wheat and certain types of dairy once they get well? Yes. Should it be on a daily basis? Absolutely not. Okay, next question is from Ava. Ava asks, "Hi, Stephen, keep up the good work. I love your podcast. Please, can you tell me what podcasts you listen to and recommend? I'm interested in hearing what inspires you as you inspire me." Thanks, Ava. I really appreciate that. That's really nice of you to say that. And, you know, it's honestly, it's a pleasure for me to do these podcasts. I'm learning right alongside you. You know, I get a new Amazon shipment of books every single week. I'm constantly downloading new podcasts all the time. So, you know, you're asking me like, which podcast do I listen to? It's all over the map, right? Like, I love listening to, you know, I'll just let you know. So I love listening to people that are inspirational or teach me something in a way that, you know, maybe I already know about, but I haven't heard in this way before. Okay, so I would love you to maybe write back as well and tell me on a specific topic, because again, like, my topics vary pretty widely as well, but just a few of the ones, like, I love listening to old Jim Rohn based podcasts that have been replayed, as well as Jim Rohn audio cassettes. And I've talked about that before. I believe it was The Art of Exceptional Living, which is like one of my favorite ones by Jim Rohn. I'll listen to Tony Robbins. I like Anthony Robbins and his work. I like it when you look at it from a psychological standpoint and a neurolinguistic programming standpoint, meaning that we don't have to wait years before we can change who we are. I used to believe that like you needed 2 years of counseling or something like that to make a change. It helps, you can set that in, but change can happen in an instant if you see things and you frame your life and your situation in a different way. Hopefully you tuned into kind of this past Monday's Mindset and Motivation Monday, and it was the advice I gave myself to overcome all odds. That was number 360, StephenCabral.com/360. And I decided, again, keep in mind, I relapsed many times, right? I felt sorry for myself. I felt like a victim. But one day I decided that no more. I was simply not going to have it anymore. I was not going to be a victim. I was not going to let my sickness, my inability to heal, my inability to really have any energy and to deal with brain fog, I was not willing to let that dictate how the rest of my life was going to go. I said to myself, I might never get better. I may never heal, but I refuse to be a victim, and I refuse to just sit here and suffer for the rest of my life. I'm going to go on with my life. I'm going to study. I'm going to open my own practice. I'm going to do all of the things that I want to do. And whether or not I ever fully get well, that is not going to stop me. It's not going to prevent me from doing what I know that I'm destined to do, what I feel like my passion is to do. And so, of course, I never stopped working at getting well. And I'm happy to say, obviously, I'm well today. But that mentality is what pushed me through. So now, I still use that today. Like I'm honestly, so a few more are the Tim Ferriss show. I really like Tim Ferriss. I like some of the longer format ones. I love other inspiring people. Like a lot of people don't know that I'm actually into martial arts. I've been a martial artist now for over 20 years. It's something that I've studied in depth. I love it not for fighting. I only take self-defense based styles. I do it for the beauty of actually learning a martial art and the katas and the way the human body moves. I actually think that that's helped me work with a lot of athletes and people as well. So I really like that. And again, you probably wouldn't really think this about me, but I listen to Joe Rogan. I find Joe Rogan actually so again, he's into martial arts, but I find him to be someone who is very well-rounded and brings very interesting guests on his show. So Tim Ferriss show, Joe Rogan show, those are some of the longer format ones. Then some really short ones like Brendan Burchard and The Charged Life. He kind of gives an inspirational one once a week or so. And another one that you might not think that I might listen to, but every once in a while, again, I don't listen to it all the time, I'll see what Joel Osteen has to say. And again, people either love him or hate him. Some people think that he's just in it for the money. And honestly, I don't care if he is or not, but his message is one of hope to millions of people. And so whether you choose to give him money or buy his products or whatever it is, why not? If he's inspiring you and helping you, then fine. Honestly, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not a particularly religious person. I'm very spiritual. I grew up religious, but I just tend towards more, I simply believe in trying to be a good person and help others. I just want to go to bed at night saying that I did the right thing, right? Whether it was the right thing or not, I believed it was at the time. That's saying that in religion, right? Like you want to do unto others as you would have them do to you. That's really just how I try to live my life. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have my moments where I, get angry and short-tempered or any of those things? Yes. But my response is much better to stress now because of just practicing, because of working on it. So with Joel Osteen, he's basically just sharing a message of hope, of inspiration. I like the parables and I like the stories. I wish I was better at telling stories. I really do. Some people have a better gift for it than others. I'm sure I could work on it, and I know he puts a lot into it, right? He puts a lot into his craft. He's not like he just kind of gives a sermon once a week. He's thinking about it. He's coming up with topics. So anyway, again, I don't even know what religion he is, but I find his message inspiring. So when you're asking, what do I listen to? I listen for things that will inspire me. And here's why. Most of us know what we need to do, right? But we just don't do it because we're waiting for like next week, or we're waiting for like that one more truth to look for. We're waiting for that aha moment, and we're just not moving forward. What most of us need in life is we just need that plan. So once we have the plan, though, we also need the inspiration, the motivation to start moving forward with that. And I'm no different than anyone else. I know that I need to do these things, right? I've been procrastinating on getting my book out. It should have been out January 1st. Instead, it's coming out this spring. I just need that inspiration to just say, okay, on top of my family life, on top of my work, on top of running, both of my practices, on top of these things, I need to find time to make sure that I write this book, to get this information out to people, because I know that it will help them take their wellness to the next level. Because I know that I can't work with millions of people individually, but I know that I can get my message out to millions of people. So That was a really long answer. Hopefully that inspires you maybe to look at some new shows and really just listen to podcasts that speak to you, and they might change depending on where you are in your life. Susan is up next with the last question. I'll make sure that I make it concise, really, really clear cut. But, this is an important one to look at. So let's make sure we answer Susan's question right now. Hi, my 4-year-old won't stop biting her nails to the point they are very sore. Please, can you advise how I can help her? I've tried the stuff that tastes horrible, but that didn't work, rewards, etc. I don't know why she does it, usually when bored or nervous, sometimes excited. Any advice would be most welcome. Thanks. Okay, so Susan, this is a real question. This is a serious question. And the reason is that your daughter can be picking up a lot of bacteria from under her nails, actually making her sick as well internally. But at the same time, it affects your teeth, which is not good for, dental-based work as well. What I want to do is I want to share with you some of the possible reasons why she might be biting her nails. So sometimes it's a mineral deficiency in children. So it can be an iron deficiency, it could be a zinc deficiency, it could be other mineral deficiencies. I've seen that. I've seen the correlation as well. So what you could do is run a hair tissue mineral analysis, or at least use a good children's multivitamin. Highly recommend that if you haven't already. Do make sure it contains zinc and a lot of those good vitamins right in there, and make sure you're doing that, again, every single day for consistency. So the other thing is sometimes is, and again, I've seen it correlated sometimes, is parasites. So I want to make sure that your daughter also doesn't have any other bloating, that she's not getting like dark circles under her eyes, that it doesn't get worse at night, because those could be signs of potential parasite infestation as well. So look into that first, make sure those aren't the issues. And also at the same time, no matter what, I want you to look for the events, like the triggering events, the triggers that cause her to bite her nails. So that if it is nervousness or anxiety, I want you to help her from a psychological standpoint to deal with those specific triggers or events. Like once you see them coming on, maybe you can just put your hand on her back when you start to see it coming, or have her hold on to you. Have her start to move from the nail biting to some other thing so that we can break that anchor, that pattern that she's doing as kind of a fallback. Another thing that you could do, and again, I'm not as much of an advocate, is putting you've already tried it, but like apple cider vinegar, things like that maybe she wouldn't love the taste of. I don't like that, right? Because that's just kind of like breaking it from that mental standpoint. You could also have her use like a stress ball to squeeze that in her hand, or even a toy instead of biting her nails, so that she could transition from biting the nails to the squeeze toy. Again, this is good for adults as well. And then eventually just catching herself doing it. That's highly, highly important too, just because we can break those psychological patterns. And then, one thing that works really well, and I'll use it for my own girls too when they're kind of like off the wall with energy, we're trying to get them to calm down before dinner, is we'll have them just drink a magnesium drink. And it's a great calming drink. It calms the sympathetic nervous system, totally healthy, and it tastes like lemonade. So it's a nice little drink, great for kids, obviously great for adults. The dosage that you use for children is much smaller. We just typically put 1 teaspoon in a nice big thing of water. They're not going to drink the whole thing, of course, and it gets them a nice sweet drink. And then the magnesium helps to just kind of like cool that sympathetic overdrive. The other thing you can do as well, though, is if they're not going to drink it, you can use, and again, this would be totally fine to do, transdermal magnesium. You can use a couple sprays on your daughter's feet, on her lower back, let it rub in. Sometimes it has a little burning sensation, so you can do it before her bath at night, and then 15, 20 minutes later, you can just have her take a bath. You can also use Epsom salt in the bath, which we use all the time for our girls. We just put a little Epsom salt in the bathtub, and they love it because they get to play a little bit, or they just use the salt. Obviously, keep it away from your eyes, and that's it. And so then you get to absorb it through the skin. So hopefully that helps. That is absolutely what I would do if I was in your position. And of course, if you have any other questions, always feel free to write back in. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Cabral House Call Weekend Edition. Really, always a pleasure speaking with you on the weekends. And feel free, and I hope that you do, tune back in tomorrow for a Mindset and Motivation Monday. Take care, everyone. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com youtube.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.